All right, so Bob, we are back rolling live here for our impromptu coverage, relatively impromptu coverage, of the FPA New York Media event hosted kindly by Yahoo Finance, as you can see above the sign with the ticker symbol. And what better way to close things out with someone who I've been a longtime fan of, Bob Powell, who is the host of the Decoding Retirement Podcast here at Yahoo Finance. Bob, thanks for joining me.
Chuck, a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This really is a pleasure for me, like really an honor, to be honest with you. So we were talking a bit off camera, and I was explaining to you here on goRIA, we talk about one of two things. Why goRIA? How can you go RIA? So let's talk about the why. And so I was sharing with you that in a former life, I was with an IBD, independent broker-dealer, of course. And when you're at an IBD, you are completely independent right up until the point you want to do something they don't want you to do.
Right.
Then you realize you're not really all that independent.
The sales prevention department got in the way.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And so I was fortunate enough to be one of the 12 money pros at the New York Daily News, the print stuff, which was great.
Yeah.
But they would call me up at 3:50 looking for a quote for the close, and I would be like, I'll get back to you in 24 hours, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But now I'm in the RIA space. I get to talk to people like you. I get to do content like this, which we just send out live. Try that at your broker-dealer. And that's why I love this space.
Yeah.
So with all that said, for aspiring advisors that want to get to work with the media, what advice do you have with them? And I know you just did a panel on this exact topic.
Yeah. I think you for anyone who's aspiring to do this, you want to be able to do something without handcuffs on.
Yeah.
And the moment you're in a broker-dealer environment, you have handcuffs attached to you. You have a wrecking ball, right, attached to your ankle. And countless times, the folks that are allowed to speak often say things that aren't worth saying to a journalist because their compliance department doesn't want them to go afield from the company line.
Plain vanilla mush.
Pablum.
Yeah.
And so I very rarely try to talk to advisors who work for a broker-dealer.
Oh.
Because of that restriction.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
You mentioned 24 hours. In some other cases, we have advisors who have offered to write for us, where they have to put a disclaimer at the bottom of the article that they write for us, and that disclaimer is in like 5-point font.
Yeah.
And it says, it says, who knows what it says, right? But it's all legalese, and it's worthless to me, and it's worthless to my readers.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I got so frustrated with our compliance department when I was in the broker-dealer world, and this is not against the broker-dealer I was with. It's all like that. They have to be like that because it's the way it is. So I submitted one of these articles I wanted to write, and I wrote a disclaimer that was like right out of the Onion, meaning everything I'm saying may be right, may not be right. I really don't know what I'm really talking about. You should not judge any of this at face value.
Right. And if you do anything of the above, it's on your own dime. Right. It's not my fault. Yeah.
It's like, what's the sense?
Yeah. It's so as an RIA, you have the freedom to say what you think without fear. Yes, you do have a compliance department or outsourced compliance department to deal with. But more often than not, I don't find anyone who I talk to who is an RIA having to say, let me get back to you because I need to check with compliance before I talk to you. It just doesn't happen.
Yes.
And so I'm more comfortable talking to someone of that ilk because I know that they're unrestricted. They're able to talk about reverse mortgages if they want to. They're willing to talk about IULs if they want to. They're willing to talk about deferred income annuities or target date funds or whatever the case may be. There's literally no restriction other than their knowledge.
Yeah. I tell you what, so I talk to a lot of advisors looking to go RIA. And at face value, a lot of folks will be like, well, you want a higher payout. And generally speaking, that is true. But you know what they really want is the freedom. Yeah. The freedom to talk to the press. The freedom to have no restrictions on what investments they can offer. Not having to be locked to the NTF list, which is one of my big pet peeves, right? If you are relegated to a certain grouping of funds or ETFs, how can you be a fiduciary? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right, and being a fiduciary is really important in this day and age. I always say, Chuck, if you had to build this industry from scratch, it would look nothing like it does today, right? We live now in a world where someone may wear a hat this way that says fiduciary, but then they turn their hat the other way when they have to do Series 7 business, and it says, I'm a broker-dealer, and what I do now isn't necessarily in your best interest. I'm just knowing my customer, and and if you think I've done wrong by you, we can go to arbitration.
That's right. We talk about this a lot, the whole idea of the hybrid. So what does this mean? So that means your advisor is a fiduciary on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but Tuesday, Thursday, watch out because anything goes.
Yeah.
How does that even still stand?
It's again, right? I think all the laws that we have today were in reaction to something.
Yeah.
So I always say, if you had to build it from scratch, it would look more like maybe the medical profession or the legal profession or the CPA profession, where you have one set of regulations, one regulator, one standard. Today, if you ask a consumer, do you have a financial planner? Do you have an investment advisor? Do you have a trust officer? Do you know the difference between all these people and what laws they have to abide by and what business model that they subscribe to and what education that they've had to do what they do?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of folks today who could hold themselves out to be a financial planner that have not gone through the CFP curriculum and aren't CFP professionals. There could be people who are registered investment advisors who just have a SEC Investment Advisor Act registration.
Yeah. You were just talking about this on the panel.
I was.
And I think your daughter was getting advice from TikTok.
She was.
Your daughter lives with Bob Powell for decades and is taking advice from TikTok.
Well,
I thought that was very funny and ironic, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if she took advice so much as whether the connection was made between what she's investing in her 401k and what she didn't know. Right. Ultimately, it took Mrs. Dow Jones to tell her that she was invested in a S&P 500 index fund in her 401k.
Right. Amazing. Okay. Yes, please.
No, I mean, and I think there are certain advantages to TikTok if it's connecting someone with improving their financial literacy in the right way. It's great. Mm-hmm. If, on the other hand, you're listening to a charlatan on TikTok, you wouldn't know the difference between what's good and what's bad. So I think we do have a problem there. I mentioned that the CFP board now has an initiative going on where they're trying to counter effect the bad advice that's on TikTok with duets and other videos. That's
a good thing, because I tell you what, it's prolific out there. And you have a lot of these people, and I forget the name of this particular advisor, but he's like the watchdog of the industry. And you may know who this is, and if you do, you can feel free to mention his name, because I think he does great work. It's just escaping me right now. But he's looking for these folks that are really over-pushing IULs with really outrageous statements, and he calls them out. Yeah. And it's fantastic. He's kind of like, this masked crusader, except he has no mask, going after these people, putting out really detrimental information. Yeah. So I think that's important.
We talked about it in the panel discussion, Chuck, this notion of is someone giving you the pros and cons of something? And if they're not, walk away, right? If something sounds too good to be true, which sometimes those who are promoting IULs do.
Yes, absolutely, sure.
And for what reason? Well, they earn that much more commission on selling an IUL versus, say, another insurance product.
Yes, indeed.
And that's a problem, right? I mean,
it's a huge
this
problem.
Is a world in which, as a consumer, you would say, are you acting in my best interest? It's a problem in different areas too, right? We have this problem that also exists with Medicare Advantage plans, where the salesmen who are selling Medicare Advantage plans earn twice as much, 3 times as much, selling an MA plan as they would a Medigap plan. So where's the incentive there? It would be definitely to sell more Medicare Advantage plans. And the same is true throughout, any commission-based product sale.
Follow the money, and so InvestmentNews last year did a 2-page print article on me, calling me broker-dealers public enemy number 1 because of the work I'm doing with goRIA. But I want to make clear, I am not anti-broker-dealer.
Yeah.
I'm anti-opaqueness.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with a commission as long as it's disclosed. Now, I'm not hybrid. I'm pure RIA because I feel that is the best way. And I don't think there's anything that I can't do as an RIA that would require me to have a 7. I just don't think there's anything left that I would need that for.
Yeah.
So that was my choice. But I think if people understood the difference between a fiduciary and a non-fiduciary, what reasonable person would choose the non-fiduciary once they know the difference?
Right. So my example I always use is you wouldn't go to a doctor and ask this question: are you acting in my best interest right now, or are you, merely doing what is, the best interest, right? You just wouldn't ask that question. But that's a question that you do have to ask an advisor because you don't know if it's one or the other or both.
We try to promote that as well. And I use that doctor analogy. I was like, imagine going to a doctor that received a commission based on what pill he was prescribing.
Right.
It's ludicrous, but that's kind of what brokers do.
Right.
Or can do.
So the question I'll give back to you, Chuck, is sometimes I think about folks who are duly registered.
Yeah.
And the opportunity that they have is to prescribe anything in the physician's desk reference, right? Any prescription that you might need.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes an RIA might have to outsource some of the things that would be, beneficial to you, whether it might be an insurance product or a
Yes.
long-term care policy or a reverse mortgage or whatever the case
Yes.
might be. So in that case, you want to be dealing, I think, with a RIA, a fiduciary, who is willing to say to you, we don't do that here, but we have a team of experts that we are affiliated with who can do that for you. We don't earn a commission from it. We don't get a referral fee, but this would be in your best interest to get a long-term care insurance policy, let's say.
Yes, and that's how we operate it. But I will say, too, for a lot of younger advisors, I really don't have a problem if they're doing like term life or long-term care, because that's really the last place that fee business doesn't work. There's fee-based annuities, which I think are an interesting solution. There's really no such thing as fee-based term or fee-based disability or fee-based long-term care. So that's when, if you do want to sell that, I don't have a huge problem, but simply say, here's how much money I'm earning.
Right.
And you probably know Knut Rodstedt.
I do.
Okay, I love Knut.
He's great.
I do a lot of
banging
panels.
the drum for a long time.
Oh my God, he is a fun person to have on
Yes.
a panel. He does not hold back, and he knows what he's talking about, and he has great points. And there's not much daylight between me and Knut, except for this one item. And I say, look, you could be a fiduciary, and if you're a younger advisor, you're generally dealing with younger clients that need term life. They need disability. They might need long-term care. And there really is no viable fee-based option. Why not let them still be a fiduciary, according to their standard, which is a little bit different, and just say, look, I'm going to work in your best interest, and if there's a commissionable product that I think is in your best interest, I'm going to write you, not 5 pages, I'm going to write you 2 sentences why I think it's best, and I'm going to tell you what my compensation is. And what I thought would be the gold standard is set your fee structure that any fees or commissions you collect on term life offset your fees.
Sounds reasonable on the face of it.
Well, tell Knut that, please, because I'm trying to convince him.
So to me, one of the things that I criticize often is this notion of anyone who holds themselves out to be a comprehensive financial planner.
Yeah.
There are no shades of gray in that. Either you are or you aren't, right?
Yes, yes.
So if it means that you have to rep term life insurance to be comprehensive, great. If it means that you don't rep it, but you have someone that you can refer them to, well, that's part of the comprehensive umbrella. But don't say you're comprehensive and then say, well, yeah, term might be right for you, but we're not going to recommend that.
That's right. Completely.
It's just not
agree.
in there, right? It's not a fiduciary. It's not best interest. It's not nothing. It's bad.
Yes. I think that's a very valid point. And maybe the last thing I'll share with you is, and I love acronyms, and one of my favorite ones these days is a PINO. You know what a Pinot is?
As in Grigio?
It is not. It's not the drinking kind. Although this is the first time I've done these episodes while having some drinks, which is fantastic.
I'm sober.
Yeah, no. Normally we do from morning to afternoon when I cover conferences. Now we're doing afternoon till late evening. The sun is setting here in New York City. It's beautiful. But a Pinot in this context is a planner in name only. Mm-hmm. And I love acronyms because I think it helps put a spotlight on something to help consumers understand that there is such a thing as a real planner. I would argue CFP, maybe a member of the FPA. Those are some good clues that you have a real planner. And then you have these Pinots that are the ones going out there overselling IUL, overselling annuities, and not really being comprehensive.
Yeah. I would add to this, right? The CFP is the gold standard, obviously,
so.
and it's a good starting point. Given the nature of the financial planning investment industry, the need to specialize is greater and greater. So maybe it's elder care planning, maybe it's college planning, maybe it's something else. But the need for people to get advanced certifications, I think, is growing. And maybe it's not you as the advisor, but maybe it's someone on your team who becomes the education planning specialist or the estate planning specialist or the insurance specialist, right? There's a need to, again, if you're going to be comprehensive and you are part of a team, I think it's critical that you get advanced certifications. If you're a solo planner, it's critical that you build out your affiliated team through experts in the field.
I tell you what, that sounds like it could be a great podcast. Can I have you on for a podcast? We can do that remotely.
Is that what we're doing now, a podcast?
Well, this is a live stream, so this is kind of a shorter format.
This is live stream?
Yeah. Did I not mention? Good thing we're not fully drinking yet.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
But no, it's all good. But I would love to have you on a podcast and talk about that topic because I think that's a great one.
I'd love to do that. Thank you.
Bob Powell, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you,
A real
Chuck.
pleasure for me.
Pleasure.
Okay, so this wraps up our fairly impromptu coverage of the FPA New York City's media event kindly hosted by Yahoo Finance. Bob, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you all for joining us.